Hello there. So today we will speak about a subject that is very close to my heart, which is how I built my businesses in the first place, right? So how did all of this come about? At this point in time, I currently own 8 businesses doing 7 figures yearly. So very, very happy with that. And I attribute it to various decisions I've taken over the course of the past few years. However, coming to the very beginning, I can very honestly tell you that I had no intention of becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner in the first part of my career. I have a background in engineering and I really love building stuff. Anything that has to do with technology, anything that has to do with innovation, with pioneering, the next steps of humanity and so on. So I'm very, very excited and I have the opportunity with one of my businesses to do just that. We've built over 200 successful engineering projects thus far and looking forward to hundreds more as time goes by. So how did I end up in business? Long story short, I had a ton of opportunities to be employed by companies in various different industries in various different countries. And it was very interesting that wherever I would be placed in any role, in any company, in any country, in any language, I've worked in 4 different languages thus far. I would always deliver amazing value and I would do more and more and more and more and I keep achieving and overachieving. And I realized a pattern, at least in the businesses that I have had the opportunity to work in, which is that they did not really care about me as a person, as an individual, as how I'm growing, as where my career is going and so on. I can tell you one example, I have many, but I can tell you one of the last, let's say, straws that made me say, okay, that's it, you guys have no idea what you're doing. I was working in a very large company. They still have operations in every country on the planet. I was working there. They told me to go to their headquarters to work from there for a few months, which I did. I flew and then I worked there. So in the first month, I hit double my quota. In month 2, I hit triple my quota. In month 3, again, I hit triple my quota. So I did that for 3 consecutive months. And then close to the end of month 3, I realized that, I'm so much better than anyone in my role, than anyone in my entire floor. So okay, so where do I go from here? I'm like, what's the next step? So I turned back because we were all in cubicles. I turned back to my manager. She was on her computer. I said, hey, do you have a minute? And she's like, yes, I do. And I asked, okay, if I were to ask for a raise or an increase in salary, what would happen? But that's not the best way of asking it. Now, as an entrepreneur, I know that's not the way you should ask as an employee or a contractor. However, in my mind, in my engineering brain, I was thinking in terms of systems. So the reason why I asked what would happen if I would ask for it, in my mind, the answer was, well, we would have to talk to HR and then we would have to see what else you can do. And then we would have to then discuss the raise and blah, blah, blah. Like I was expecting her to tell me the process. Instead, I turned to her, I asked her the question. So what would happen if I would ask her a raise? Again, after 3 months of over delivering, double and then triple twice, she just looks to me and without even drawing a breath, she's like, we would just find someone else. And that's it. That was literally the conversation. And it gave me like a blue screen. Like I didn't have enough RAM to process what was going on. So I was looking at her. I'm like, I don't understand. So I just said, okay. And she then asked, anything else? And I was still in shock. I said, no, that's fine. She said, okay. And she went back to work. And then I just turned back to my desk and just looked at the screen for like, I don't know, a minute. It felt like forever. But I remember that was the moment when I decided never again. I'm not going to do this again. I've tried seeking employment so many times. I always over-deliver. I always put myself out there. I always want to be entrepreneurial within the business, right, to help make the business better. But it looks like it wasn't very helpful. So that same year, I went back to my home country and then I started my first company. And ever since then, or maybe at the beginning, not so much, but then now in recent years, every year I start anywhere between 1 to 3 companies every year, right? So I focus on that, just adding to my portfolio, growing my assets every single year to accumulate more and more and more wealth for my family and for everyone in our community. We, employ over 100 people across 14 different time zones. So we're very, very happy with what we've achieved thus far. Going back to the first years though, I can tell you that in the first 3 years of business, every single year I lost money. So I had a big cash reserve from working because whenever I would in past companies, I would negotiate my salary based on performance. And this is something I recommend to anyone working, right? They say, okay, what's average performance at this level? This, okay. What if I do double that? What if I do triple that. And I would always negotiate my salary that way. So I had a very significant amount of money saved, at least for my age at that time. And so I started the business and I did project work, I hired people and so on. But for the 3 years, I was losing money. Up until a year when I was living in America, half of my time at that point. And so I would go there for like 3 months and then go somewhere else for a few months and then go back for 3 months and so on. At one point, I remember before I would leave, I would always have like this ritual of going to all of my family members to say, hey, how are you? What plans do you have? Because I would literally leave for months at a time, sometimes half a year at a time. So I would bid my farewells as well. So on this journey, I went to my grandmother and I said, hey, grandma, how are you? How are things? And so it was a good conversation. However, at the end of that conversation, she said, Robert, I pray to God that by the time you come back, I will not be here anymore. Because she had basically enough of she had significant health issues that I talk about in one of my books, but she didn't want to keep going as such. And so she said that, I wish to not be here anymore. She has said things like that in the past. So I just said, grandma, come on, don't say that. Don't be like that. You'll be fine. And so on. However, I went to Latin America and I kid you not, 1-2 months later, something like that, I get a call from my aunt, my mother's sister, saying that, my grandmother passed away. And she was the person that raised me until I was 10 because I had working parents, both of them. And so they didn't have time to stay with me. So I stayed with my grandmother for the first almost 10 years of my life. And so she was very, very important. By year 3 of business, I was literally on the verge of bankruptcy. I still remember I had so little money in my account. It's crazy. I was living off of one Subway sandwich a day because I had so little money left.